am very excited to show you this video. I was planning to do a how to prepare for Inktober or any October art challenge month video, but time got away with me and I was really busy, so I didn't end up making that video. But I thought I would kind of integrate some of those tips and tricks that I was planning to talk about in that video in this one. So watch me prepare my 2025 calendar using inks and a theme and lots of painting. I usually align my calendar artwork making with October art challenge, so that it's like a way for me to allow myself to spend time, dedicated days to making a series of illustrations, and kind of feel part of the community because everyone else is doing it too in October. Not everyone, but a bunch of other artists are doing it too. And making illustrations for a calendar means I only have to do 12 illustrations, so it's not as high pressure or difficult because it's only half the amount of illustrations as a whole month, but they are more detailed. So if you don't know what Inktober is or any of the other October challenges, it's basically a drawing or art challenge where every day in October you make an artwork. Initially it started as ink only, hence the name Inktober, but it's actually like you can do anything you want. It's kind of evolved since then, and I love doing them. I've been doing these October art challenges since 2012 or 13, I want to say, and I just loved the idea of doing a daily art challenge. Back then it wasn't as big as it is now. There wasn't as much pressure as there is now. Like, I felt like I just had to do one tiny little drawing every single day and I was like, cool, done. Whereas now it feels like you have to do full-on finished illustrations, but you really don't. You can make it whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be full-on finished artworks, which is nice. And we have to remember that, because sometimes like putting the pressure on ourselves to make fully finished illustrations every single day for 30 days, it's overwhelming unless you plan. So maybe we can talk about planning real quick. So if you're someone who wants to create an illustration every day for the month of October, you need to plan, and it's totally okay to plan ahead of time. It's okay to start ahead of time. Again, your rules, your challenge, your rules. There is no one's gonna come knocking at your door and like tell you you've been a bad person because you changed the rules to suit your own life and your own rhythm. It's okay. So what I like to do is think of a theme. I spend like months over the years. I'll think about what theme I want to make my calendars or my October art challenge to be, and I have a little notes section on my phone, and I just like will quickly write down little ideas. So in the past, some of my themes or collections have been all about like collecting or different places to be. So I had collectors of important things, I had nice places to have a nap, I had adventurers over leaves. Before that I had different quilts, and then another theme was color palettes combined with like flowers which are related to the month that they are for. And they were really fun. Before I merged my October art challenge into making calendars, I would do other sort of themes. So another theme I did was sculptural body shapes, because I really wanted to work on rhythm and flow and silhouettes of bodies in an interesting way. Another one, I made up a little story about a shooting star and a sad moon. Yeah, so I always made my challenges my own. I never followed art prompts or themes that other people had made, just because maybe I'm just like that. I like doing my own I like my own babies. I like to create my own babies. So that's why I made my own themes, and I really enjoy making my own themes. I think they're really fun, don't they, baby? It's really important to choose a theme or a prompt list or prompts that inspire you. It's motivation is a huge part of it if you're going to tackle this 30-day challenge. You need to be motivated, you need to be excited about what you're going to be working on. The theme I chose this year for my 2025 calendar is magical musical instruments. So I spent a lot of time coming up with my theme, and I actually wrote a little backstory for every single character and every single instrument that they play, what the instruments are made of, how the instrument impacts the listener or the world around it, and why. And I had a really good time doing that. Like, I really love creating stories in my illustrations and just like, yeah, using my imagination, stretching my imagination, and really playing with storytelling in my illustrations. So that's something that I really enjoy. Find something that you really enjoy and you think that you can stick with and be inspired by. Maybe that is color palette playing or storytelling or certain style. Maybe you want to make something that resembles a quilt. Maybe you want to make something that will feel like you're growing a garden or something. I don't know, but have fun with your themes. So think of a little theme, or find an art prompt list that you like, or several art prompt lists that you like, and come up with little sketches or little ideas for each prompt ahead of time. I would usually just do like little thumbnail sketches in my sketchbook, kind of like handwriting. I just like throw them down on the page and see what comes out, see what I regurgitate out. I'm gonna pop some little clips here of me doing that. So like last year for the Adventures Over Leaves series, I filled a few pages full of different body poses, and I built up almost like a library of poses, which I could then go back on when it came to me drawing each day or like illustrating each day and go, okay, which body am I feeling like painting today, or which color palette am I feeling like painting today? And I'd go through and I'd have a look at my little library of poses and pick one. Another way you could prep is by preparing your pages or preparing your paper. So what I did when I did the 100-day challenge is I prepped all sorts of square pieces of paper with watercolor. So what I did was I got a huge, it was like A1 size piece of paper, and I pre-blobbinated with all sorts of different colors and brush strokes and stuff. And then I cut them into little squares, and I had 100 squares ready to go to be painted or drawn on when I was ready to use them. So preparing your base, preparing your palette, preparing your materials is a really good way to get ready and figure out what you're doing. You can also take your inks or your pencils or whatever art material you're using and do some tests. Figure out what works, figure out how to use the material if you haven't used it for a while. So I hadn't used my inks for about a year. So it takes me like a minute to kind of remember, to reignite my love for that art supply. And after 10-15 minutes of dabbling and playing and looking at all my colors and remembering how they work with each other, I was ready to go and excited to paint. If, like me, you are kind of strapped for time, preparing is so helpful. Preparing what you're going to paint is so helpful. What I did was I jumped onto my iPad and I fully fleshed out my character for each month, as you can see here. It's just a sketch, but it really helped me. I would do one sketch like this for each of my illustrations. So I did 12 in total, and they're fairly detailed. So if you're doing something a little less detailed, it might take you a much shorter time than it took me. What I ended up doing is taking these sketches and setting a really light color over the top of them. I chose like a really pale purple, and I made my whole illustration pale purple, and then took a watercolor paper and I printed my very pale sketch onto the piece of paper, so my sketch is there ready to paint on. I've done my sketch on my iPad. I don't want to waste another hour trying to sketch it onto my piece of paper, and sometimes tracing can be a bit fiddly as well, so that's how I dealt with it. I would take my sketch, I'd purple it, and then print it from my iPad through my printer onto my nice watercolor paper, and it made my time so much faster, so much easier. There's part of me that felt like it was cheating, but it's really not cheating because I did the hard work of sketching, just happened to be on my iPad, and printed it out onto the paper. So pre-sketch, do what you need to do to make your life a bit easier. Print your sketch onto your watercolor paper or whatever you're doing, and it just like eliminates one really tedious step in your process. I'll definitely be talking to you more about my process when I post my individual magical musician artworks, which I'm very excited to show you. But one of the things that I did once I had my little printout, I would then create a base layer of ink. So I would just do a really light wash and I'd play with different color combinations and let them bleed into each other, kind of letting ink just be ink. And then I would have my light wash base. This is just how I like to work with ink. I really like to just slowly build up my layers, and build up my shadows and build up my textures and that sort of thing. I don't really like the way it looks when you just do one layer. I really just like to spend my time and building up little layers as I go. So I'm really excited to show you my process videos in the next month, and I really hope you like it. But yeah, lots of slow work and lots of layers and lots of intentional playing with colors, but also letting ink be ink. And you can't really be fully intentional because ink just does its thing. It bleeds, it does weird stuff, it creates strange colors sometimes. So embrace. So there we have it. I hope those little tidbits help you with your Creative October Daily Challenge, or whatever you may be doing. Feel free to leave me a nice comment. Let me know what you're working on in the month of October, if you're even participating in the October Creative Art Challenges. And yeah, thank you to my patrons. As always, you give me big smiles. And I will see you next time. Okay, toodaloo.